Hi, you've landed on the Lonely Diplomat podcast, and wherever you are in the world I need you to be patient with me. There's many capitals that start with the letter B in English, so let's get into them. Wherever you are in the world, from Baghdad, Baku, Bamako, Bandar Seri Begawan, Bangkok, Bangui, Banjul, Basseterre, Beijing, Belgrade, Belmopan, Berlin, Bern, Bishkek, Bissau, Bogota, Brasilia, Bratislava, Brazzaville, Bridgetown, Brussels, Bucharest, Budapest, and last but certainly not least, Buenos Aires. Wherever you are in the world and all places in between those awesome cities, welcome. I'm Phil McAuliffe. I'm the Lonely Diplomat, and I have a site, thelonelydiplomat.com, which has been expressly set up to help serve, support, challenge and inspire diplomats and those living the diplomatic life as they live the highs and lows of their diplomatic life wherever they are in the world. And I do this through my blog, my book, The Lonely Diplomat, Reconnecting with Yourself and the World Around You, which is available through Amazon, this podcast, and my mentoring services, which are available to you if you want a one-on-one conversation with me and you want me as a mentor in your corner. So you can book a time with me to have a one-off conversation with me, or you can become a member. You can become a minister level member and have a one-on-one with me every 3 months, or ambassador level members can have a one-on-one with me every month. So having me in your corner gets you engage me in your life and have me supporting you, challenging you, and inspiring you as you lead your diplomatic life. All these details are available on thelonelydiplomat.com. I want to say welcome to episode 35 of the Lonely Diplomat podcast. And this episode is, it's in response to a comment that I received during a conversation with one of you, my awesome global audience. And the conversation came about when someone shared with me in response to a blog post which I published last year on my blog, and a subsequent podcast which I dropped. I guess is that what people say? I dropped a podcast. I don't know. I want to make sure that I get that lingo right. Otherwise, I feel like I've outed myself as some kind of middle-aged man who doesn't really know how the kids speak on social media. But in any case, I released a podcast episode on this, which is episode 22, and it was all about on bullying and harassment in diplomacy. And that the content, the blog, and the podcast explored the circumstances of what can happen, and sadly and ashamedly, what does happen when power meets ambition, when power and ambition meet isolation and distance, and what can happen when ultra-competitive people like diplomats are put into an environment, an embassy, a high commission, a consulate that's far away from the eyes of headquarters, and the toxic environment that can develop in those kind of circumstances, and the effect that it has on us as people. And that content was extremely challenging because I was privileged. I was honoured and privileged to have you, some of my members of my awesome global audience, share your stories of bullying and harassment in your workplace, and it was horrendous. It was absolutely bloody terrible, absolutely terrible. I'm going to swear it was like fucking atrocious and shameful. The stories that I heard and the absolute fear that people had about speaking up, and how the victims of some toxic behaviour in these workplaces far away, and the effect that the fear that people lived under, day in, day out, and not just in the office, but outside of the office. There was no escape. The absolute fear that people, sadly, often people in senior or senior most positions in diplomatic missions had on their staff. Now, this is a rich vein and of content, and I explored that in that blog and the podcast, and the invitation is there for you to read the blog or listen to the podcast, which is episode 22. But suffice to say that bullying and harassment is never okay. I can't believe I have to say this, and we all know this, right? Because we're smart human beings, but apparently some of us don't. Apparently people, who knows how people respond under pressure. And the diplomatic life, being a diplomat, is a life where we can experience horrendous situations. Absolutely horrendous situations. There is no excuse for bullying and harassment. I wonder if there is any organisation, employing organisation, that tolerates, at least publicly states that it tolerates bullying and harassment. But when it comes to stated policy and what actually happens, or the perception of what happens, perception always wins out. And if the perception is that someone is too important to touch, someone is too important to chastise, someone is too senior or has too good a reputation to bring an issue to the attention of, that their management style, their personal style in the office is actually a form of bullying and harassment. Until that changes, this is going to continue to be an issue that plagues many diplomats, and indeed those who live a diplomatic life. It doesn't serve any of us to pretend that it doesn't happen. It doesn't serve any of us to speak of it in hushed tones. It doesn't serve any of us to gossip about it. It certainly serves us to have an open and kind and honest conversation about bullying and harassment in diplomacy. And I'm really glad that that we're able to talk, that I'm able to talk with you in this episode of the Lonely Diplomat podcast, episode 35, about how that can affect, that bullying and harassment and that kind of toxic environment can affect us as diplomats. So certainly the comment was that started this whole episode was, I did not want to be a burden. And the comment was shared with me after I'd had a conversation with someone who shared their experience of bullying and harassment in the workplace. And it was horrendous. Just viewer, listener, it was absolutely horrendous. Very upsetting, the level of just the insidious nature of the bullying and harassment. This person who endured this, I am in awe, absolute awe, that they continued to come into the office day after day after day. They certainly paid an emotional price, they certainly paid a mental price, and they paid a physical price for enduring this level of bullying and harassment. And I asked them, why didn't you reach out for support? Why didn't you let your employing agency know? Why didn't you talk to other people, like to counsellors, mentors, to, if they had some, like a partner in their life, a good friend, why didn't you reach out for help and support? And the comment that I got back, the answer that I got back, was I didn't want to be a burden. That broke me. That absolutely broke me, because rather than wanting to be a burden on people who love them, people who are there for them, either in a personal capacity or in a professional capacity, they chose to not say anything. They did not want to be a burden. And so the invitation in this episode is there for you, listener. The invitation is there for you, viewer on YouTube, is are you enduring something at work, something in your diplomatic life? Are you enduring something that, frankly, mere mortals would have broken years ago, but you're enduring this because you don't want to be a burden? You are worried about, the perception, your perception, your personal reputation within your employing agency, that if you did speak up, that you would be viewed as not being resilient. And you're somehow playing into what I argue is the natural consequence of such a hyper-competitive environment that and hyper-competition that rules many of our workplaces, where you get many smart people who have achieved much in life, who are ambitious, and fear making a wrong statement, fear taking a wrong step, saying or doing something that's perceived as being wrong, that then rules them out for a posting, rules them out for a promotion, rules them out for another opportunity to showcase their awesomeness, and that damages their career in some respect, and then fear the maladaptation, the faux resilience that can rule many of our diplomatic workplaces, where resilience has been hijacked as a concept from flexing in times of stress and returning to form, to resilience meaning that you must endure day in, day out, almost intolerable amounts of stress, and to do so with a smile on your face and a whistle on your lips, and making it look like you're not affected at all. Really, that's. Can we just stop for a moment again in this episode and have a just pause and think about you, how you have, say, endured 2020 and all 2020 threw at you, how you are enduring 2021 so far, and what is happening in your life. And are you resisting speaking up, sharing, because you don't want to be a burden with someone? Now, in my line of work, and I have the Lonely Diplomat and a loneliness site for gay men called the Loneliness Guy. And so I work a lot on loneliness and destigmatizing loneliness. And I think the hint is certainly there in the name of my work here at the Lonely Diplomat. And so I am committed, absolutely committed to having these having difficult conversations in a kind and honest way, because difficult conversations, difficult topics don't suddenly magically resolve themselves because we pretend that they're not there and we don't talk about them, or we talk about them in a way that's not helpful. No, difficult conversations, difficult issues get solved when we have kind and honest conversations with each other, when we are courageous, when we speak up. Nothing changes unless we do something that changes it. And indeed, when we work in diplomacy and we work within massive bureaucratic machines, it can feel that we can't affect any change. Well, that's not right. That's not right. Fundamentally, that's not right. The change that we feel our organizations need to make doesn't simply happen from the top down. Change that we need to make within ourselves, within our teams, within our offices, within our buildings, within our organization happens when we commit to make changes within ourselves. And if we feel that we are a burden, that we don't want to share because we don't want to burden people, nothing will change. Nothing that you need in your life will change. And you, listener, you viewer, just like I did, you will suffer from that. No one else will suffer. Your organization, like your employing organization, in a matter of truth here, won't care. There's plenty of other people who will fill your position if you can't do it. You know that. So the only thing that's left to decide is do you continue on potentially enduring the unendurable if you are working in a toxic workplace? If you are tired, if you are like at the end of your tether because you've been doing a fantastic job day in, day out in the most outrageously extenuating circumstances, the choice that you have is deny your humanity or make a decision to make change within yourself. That's the decision. And if you feel that you don't want to share what's going on within you, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, if you want to ignore that, deny that, repress that, dismiss it as an inconvenience within yourself, that you'll, just double down on the work, you'll do something that will, you get what I mean? You're going to pay the price. You're going to pay the price. So the invitation there, my dear viewer, my dear listener, is to consider if you are feeling that you are a burden. Because one of the things we also do in a hyper-competitive environment in which we live and work as diplomats is compare. And we're very good. We are very good as diplomats. In the eternal debate between our head and our heart, between logic and intuition, between what we think and what we feel, we are like the world's best. Just like I am, we are the world's best at outthinking feelings, or attempting to outthink feelings. We are fantastic at using logic to beat out intuition. Our head, we think things rather than feel things. We dismiss our feelings, what we feel, what we know to be true, somehow true about ourselves. We can deny those as inconveniences. And in that process of our head overruling our heart, we can become world's best at comparisons. We can say, I've got, like, there's nothing, my situation is nothing compared to someone else's. They've got this going on. I'm fine compared to that. That's an absolute shit show over there. I'm just going to, shut up and carry on, put a smile on my face and that whistle on my lips again. And those comparisons we can, use as the justification that, we can, of our head overruling our heart. But here's the truth, listener. Here's the truth, viewer. And you know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The heart will always win out. what we feel, what we know intuitively about ourselves will always come back up. Will always come back up and will find its way to get our attention. And oftentimes, if you are like me, that comes up when your body goes, you know what, stop. I'm going to make you sick. You know, you've been going at it for months and months and months now, working unholy hours. I'm just going to, you know, for me, listener, viewer, I get migraines, and that's my body's way of going, well, just stop. I'm going to make you sleep for like a day and a half, and you know that's how you're going to stop. Whatever it is with you, your body, what you are feeling and how and what you know intuitively about yourself is going to come back. That's just what it does. So again, another fork in the road about this episode about being a burden. Do you continue to outthink your feelings, trying to outthink your feelings, or do you actually do what feelings are there to be done? If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling that you do need help, you do need to share what's going on within you, remember that feelings are there to be felt. Thoughts are there to be thought. You can't think feelings. So, the question then becomes, can you share your experience? Like, you share what's burdening you, what's holding you back. Can you ask for help? I want to say this one thing. Remember, please remember, from the world champion who, like, you know, take this advice from the former world champion of doing this. We are not meant to do life, this diplomatic life or otherwise. We are not meant to do life alone. There is no prize at the end of all of this for doing life the most alone. Take it from me, someone who is pretty kind of sort of an expert in loneliness and its effect on us. Maybe not an expert, I don't know, you know, you might have a word, but at least we can agree that, you know, I'm pretty damn interested and focused on loneliness and its effects on us. The only person who suffers from that approach to doing things in the most self-contained possible is ourselves. I promise you, there's awesome connective power, whether you're feeling lonely or not, but there is awesome power in sharing in a real, vulnerable and authentic way what's going on in you. It allows people in your life into your life. It allows other people who are in your life to love you. It allows people in your life to help you, because just like you do for other people in your life, other people in your life want to help you. And getting past these thoughts and feelings of being a burden and not wanting to trouble people, not wanting to upset apple carts, whatever it is, that will facilitate the kind of genuine and authentic connection that we need as humans, that you, my dear viewer, my dear listener, need as an awesome human. So, when you feel that things are getting too much, please remember that there are so many people who are ready and waiting for you to take the step beyond those thoughts about not wanting to be a burden. So I'm pretty sure that your organization, your employing organization, has a team of psychologists either in-house or contracted to provide counseling services to you. If you don't, I have links on my site, and my friend Jacqueline Bendorf provides therapy services at a rate exclusive for listeners, for the audience of The Lonely Diplomat. And there's also coaches that are available, and I have many, many coaches that I can recommend to you, but particularly Kevin Hunting from The Proud Diplomat and now 2 Steps Forward, and details of his coaching services are available on my site. And there's also mentors, and if you have your own mentor, please speak with them. That's entirely the point of a mentor. They've probably been through that themselves. And I'm also here. I'm also here to provide mentoring services for you. So if you feel that you've connected with me through this episode and previous content, I'd love to be in your corner. I'd love to be in your corner, but it does take you to take a step beyond feeling and thinking that you are somehow a burden. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, all the details for how to access my mentoring services, how to get me in your corner, are available on thelonelydiplomat.com. And if you don't want someone in a professional capacity, please, if you have a spouse or a partner, speak up. Speak up. Amazing connective qualities come from when we are vulnerable. Speak to a friend. Journal within yourself. Get those, feel those feelings and get help to feel those feelings. It was a really serious episode, wasn't it? And where some pretty uncomfortable truths were raised. I feel very strongly about this, and know that the lows of diplomatic life don't go away just because they're inconvenient, just because they're ignored, or where there is that gap between stated policy and perception/reality. Perception always wins. So the only thing that we can do is have kind and honest conversations ruled with empathy. And here I am, listener, here I am, viewer, ready, eager to help you as you live your diplomatic life. You are certainly not a burden. You're a wonderful, awesome human being. And there's a very real reason why I end up when I finish every episode of the Lonely Diplomat podcast by saying, stay awesomely and humanly you. Goes to being humanly you. As I wrap up this episode and say those words to finalize the episode, I want to invite you, if you've got a question for me, please send an email to me at admin@thelonelydiplomat.com, or send a message to me on Facebook. Slide into my DMs on Instagram at @the_lonely_diplomat. Or there's no wrong way of getting in contact with me. And it wouldn't be a podcast or a video on YouTube without saying liking this, commenting, following or subscribing on social media really does help me get the message out to diplomats and those who live the diplomatic life that they're not alone in living the highs and lows of this diplomatic life. But as always, a personal recommendation from you goes a long way and is indeed far more effective than any sort of social media God-pleasing strategy. If you've got any comments for me as well, please, if there's anything that I could improve on this episode, if there's anything any other feedback that you want to share with me, please send me an email or otherwise get in contact with me. As always, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for sharing some of your day with me wherever you are in the world. And until next episode, be awesomely and humanly you, because the world really does need more you.